Hello everyone, it's so good to be here yet again. Last night I got to see a film that I was very curious about, a Spanish film called Close Your Eyes. This is yet another film that I'm walking into with zero context whatsoever. As you may have noticed on this channel, I end up doing that quite frequently. I don't really like watching trailers because generally speaking they give way too much away of the film, and I do love taking this leap of faith and just trusting my ninja intuition and my passion for cinema, and thus far it has not led me astray, and this is yet more proof of just trusting my gut instinct because this turned out to be quite a thought-provoking gem of a film. So as far as I can tell, this is a very deep, soul-searching meditation on memory of all things. And I think it's fascinating how they use cinema as a vehicle to drive that very thematic. And indeed, the film brings out this idea of our characters being these cinema archaeologists, and they themselves realize that they're kind of the butt of the joke because they're literally these old men, in other words, ancient relics of the past themselves. I don't get too much in detail of like what actually happens in the film, but I want to say that the entire intro chapter of the film I'm head over heels in love with. I think it's a very inspiring and unique way of starting out the story. We are introduced to this character of Roi le Triste, who helps ignite the driving enigma of the story, of searching for a long lost somebody. And it's a very unique way of bringing about that kind of driving narrative, because right after that intro sequence, the entire context of the film changes drastically. Though in a way, that same enigma still continues, but in a parallel way. Literally, that same mantle of responsibility gets donned on by the protagonist and continues further on in the story. And when I say that, I mean that in figure of speech, yes, but quite literally too. We see that character put on the coat of someone else who was wearing it in that intro sequence. So yeah, I thought it was quite an ingenious way of starting off the film. In essence, this is very much a drama, mystery style of film about searching for a long lost friend who's been gone for over 20 years now. He might be dead, missing, literally nobody knows. For the most part, I thought this was a very touching and thought-provoking film, though it is maybe a little bit too slow, especially in the middle part of the film. I do find the film starts to drag a little bit. I mean, it is nearly 3 hours long. If we do count in commercials, we're definitely busting the 3-hour line. And I was watching it late at night, so at times it was a little trying, especially given the context that these are literally old men who are kind of in this burned out, depressed state. So once again, late at night, this was a bit of a trying film going experience, though luckily not an uninteresting one. Maybe there was a little bit of fat that could have been trimmed, because I do find that the characters themselves kind of lose the thread of the mystery for a decent amount of time. Though all that being said, the final chapter of the film I absolutely loved. It might not be the ending we were hoping or expecting it to be, but I do find it's very tastefully chosen, and it has a very clever way of bookending all the thematics that are building up to that point. And I also really appreciate how the title of the film integrates itself into the narrative in a few choice moments. Now, as far as the art direction goes, I do find that overall it's maybe a little too gray and monotone, though in a way it is somewhat appropriate because once again these are old guys that are kind of burned out, depressed, so the aesthetic kind of fits the emotion. But over a 3-hour long film is a little too monotone, repetitive, generally speaking. That being said, there are at least 2 sequences that really stand out in the film. The entire intro chapter in that chateau with Roi le Triste, I absolutely loved, no complaints whatsoever. That was a super memorable area, not just in terms of the set design, decoration, but also in terms of visual composition. Mwah, chef's kiss on that. And there's this one sequence which I don't want to get too much in detail, but there's this abandoned cinema that we explored that I think was so well chosen. I really love that. And as a final comment, I do love that I get to experience these kind of international films. The Spanish language is such a beautiful language, and it's one that I wish I had more time to actually fully learn, but alas, time is fleeting. I'm still young, I have plenty of time ahead of myself, but I will say that this film kind of did inspire my love for the language, and the acting really did wonders in that regard. They're so poignant in their delivery in this very poetic and profound way. And though this is a Spanish film, and for the vast majority we are speaking in Spanish, there is a bit of English and even some Chinese sprinkled throughout, which is something that I wasn't expecting, and it was a nice little surprise. But yeah, as you can tell, I thought this was a great film. Maybe a little too slow at times, but nonetheless a very powerful and thought-provoking film. Easily an 8 out of 10. Not too many people are talking about it, so I do highly recommend you check it out, though I am glad to see at least that critically speaking it's doing quite well, even if it's really not getting a lot of traction at the box office. And as a final anecdote, this has nothing to do with the actual film itself. I went to see this film at Cinema du Parc, a theater that I'm growing to love more and more as the years are going by, and I did mention in a previous video not too long ago that they completely renovated their cinema. It's looking amazing now. I literally feel like I'm at the red carpet on Oscar night, and as exciting as as that alone is, I had no idea that there was this inauguration party that night as I was going to the cinema. Had I known, I would have showed up even earlier, because of all people, Denis Villeneuve was there in person in the house, shouting out Cinema du Parc, and it seems that he also did quite a bit of donation towards the cinema, which doesn't surprise me in the least bit. I'm kind of bummed out I didn't get to see him, but you know what? I'm not complaining too much. I'm glad that the people had a great time, and even though I got there after he left, probably not too long after he left, in any case, there's still a great ambiance in the cinema, not just because of the party, people hanging out with their friends, but also everyone just seemed to be enjoying the decor, and people seemed genuinely excited to see whatever they were going to see. I think most people were there that night to see Mulholland Drive, bit of an older classic now. It's been over 20 years since it came out. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. A bit of a wild ride, but man, unforgettable. In any case, as usual, I digress. With all that being said, wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. Take care and talk to you soon.